Welcome everyone to this SCORE presentation. My name is Stephen Olson and I'm a mentor with SCORE. And I'm anxious to learn more about these strategies that Laura is going to describe as help us in our consulting. But first, I'd like to say just a few words about the organization I volunteer with. SCORE is the nation's largest network of volunteer expert business mentors. We are dedicated to helping small business get off the ground, grow, and achieve their goals. Since 1964, we have provided education and mentorship to more than 11 million entrepreneurs. SCORE is a 501c3 nonprofit organization and a resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration, the SBA. And thanks to the generous support from the SBA, plus the selfless contributions of the more than 10,000 volunteers across the nation, we can deliver our offerings at no cost. And we have over 100 volunteers to help you in Chester and Delaware counties. We provide this help through mentoring, webinars and courses on demand, a library of online resources. Plus, we are finally doing live in-person events again. And for this webinar, we do have some rules of engagement. I think I mentioned earlier that the presentation is being recorded and you will receive a copy of this after the presentation from SCORE, the email that you registered with. And you've been placed on mute so that we don't get distractions during Laura's presentation. And please add your questions in the Q&A box. That helps us keep track of what's questions versus the chat box, where you can put in any comments and references, and you'll have time throughout the presentation where Laura's going to pause and we'll try to address questions that have come up along the way. So we did put a poll out there too. So before I introduce Laura, please take a look at that and respond if you haven't. But let me say a few words about Laura. We're so pleased that she has taken time to help us today. Laura Burford is the founder and owner of LAD Enterprises and Laura's Consulting Guide. As a management consultant, she has provided advice to for-profit and nonprofit organizations of all sizes. This includes leading numerous multi-million-dollar business improvement initiatives and application development and technology infrastructure programs. In addition to mentoring people in consulting and project management, she is a public speaker, writes articles for trade magazines as well as her own blog, and has a YouTube channel providing consulting insights as well. Laura is the author of Project Management for Flat Organizations, and it was one of 10 2013 Small Business Book Award winners. With that, Laura, I'll turn this crowd over to you.
When people talk to me about or ask me about how do I get clients, I kind of flip the question back to them and ask them, what are you doing? What are you doing to get clients? And there are a couple of themes I hear. One is, well, I reach out and I touch them. And that's great because that is one thing that you want to do. Other people say to me, well, I speak, I write, I have a podcast, I create videos. They're good things to do. One of the frequent things I get asked is about social media and LinkedIn. And I hedge when people talk to me about social media and using social media such as LinkedIn or Facebook, because LinkedIn and Facebook are tools. And I want you to kind of change your framework a little bit if you're focused on social media, to think about them as tools to help you connect with clients. And then I have other people say, well, I ask them if they're interested in working with me. And I hedge with that as well, because until you build a relationship, you really don't want to ask people if they're interested in your help. Think of it this way. Have you ever picked up the phone and somebody immediately tries to sell you something? Well, that's probably not what you want to do. So we're going to talk today about the best ways to reach out and connect with people. And as Stephen said, I will pause at spots for you to ask questions. So please put questions in the Q&A. And don't hesitate to put something in the chat if you think it's more appropriate for the chat. But today's presentation is not about me, it's about you. And Steve, could you click, please?
Well, I've got to get on all right there.
Okay, back. Oh, just leave it. That's fine. My goal today is for you to walk away with a better understanding of 3 great strategies, 3 great approaches to help you get clients. And I don't care if you're just starting out or if you've been consulting for more than 2 years. And I noticed about a little over 50% of you who responded to the poll said you've been consulting for more than 2 years. And the techniques I'm going to talk about or the approaches are going to be fabulous for you. And for the people that are starting out, I'm going to make sure I address some of how these 3 strategies, you can use these 3 strategies, but with some little additional things you might want to think about. Please, if you don't have a pen, pencil, a piece of paper, go grab them. You're going to want to take notes. I will be providing you tips and techniques as we talk. People who have heard this presentation in the past have walked away. One person said to me, I have 5 pages of notes. You will walk away with notes and actions you can take immediately. Next slide. Stephen did a great job of introducing me. I am not going to say much more, except I have been consulting for most of my professional career. I have 10 years with PwC. I did not start out as a consultant. I did start out in industry before moving to consulting. I also know what it's like to be faced with a disaster that puts you in a spot where you say, you know what, now what am I going to do next? Because I went out on my own after 9/11. And at that time, I was the managing director of an international consulting operation, had been recruited by the CEO. My main office was 4.5 blocks from the World Trade Towers. We were impacted immensely, and I opted to say, time to move on. As we go through, please, as I said, ask questions. But if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn and you would like to be connected, drop me a connection, ask me to connect. Stephen mentioned that there is a YouTube channel. That YouTube channel was dormant for some time. It came back 2 months ago. Please help yourself to the free videos there. Help yourself to the free articles on Medium. And at Laura's Consulting Guide, you will find free resources. They're all free. Help yourself to whatever is going to help you build your consulting organization. One of the best, Stephen, if you hit the next slide, that would be great. One of the best analogies I can use when it comes to getting clients ties to baseball. And one of the things that happened during the pandemic, and I don't know if this happened to you, but I know it happened to me, is I finally caught up on TV series and reading that I hadn't been able to get to. I'm a big watcher of movies that tie to history, that are based on truth. And one day, the movie that popped up on Netflix was Moneyball. And I put it on. And I had seen it before, but this time it registered a little different. And I had an aha moment. And I said, you know what? Baseball and consulting and getting clients, there's synergy between the two. I don't know how many of you have seen Moneyball or read the book, because Moneyball is based on a true story. The book was written by Michael Lewis. I had to think for a second there. And let me give you the premise. Brad Pitt plays Billy Beane. Billy Beane is the general manager of the Oakland Athletic Club. And during the 2002 season, he was faced with a challenge. The challenge was this. He had limited money. And most people who are consultants or starting out as consultants have limited money to spend. In 2001, the Oakland A's had lost the American League Division Series to the New York Yankees. And that's who he was competing with. And Billy Beane sitting back saying, how do I go ahead and build a team? Some of his key players were now free agents, and he had limited funds. To put things in perspective, the Oakland A's had $44 million for salaries, while the New York Yankees had $125 million. He took a different approach. and I'm summarizing this up. He took a different approach. He said we cannot follow the traditional ways of looking for players. We can't look at how many home runs they get. We have to think differently. Now, the movie deviates a little bit from truth, from the book, in the fact that there's a character in the movie whose name is Peter Brand, and that's played by Joanna Hill. Billy Beane looks at Peter to help him with statistics and to look at how they engage and how they bring people on the team differently. And that's what I want you to think about as you go about thinking about how you go to get clients. I'm not talking about eliminating any of the basics. I want you to keep the basics in mind, because Billy Beane didn't eliminate the basics either. But what he did was he took a step back and said, we have to bring on the undervalued. We have to bring on the people who know how to get on base. And there's a fabulous scene in the movie where Billy Beane, played by Brad Pitt, is sitting around the table with his recruiters, his scouts, who are coming up with names of players. And he's saying, nope, I don't want them. I don't want them. And he looks across to Peter, played by Jonah Hill, and says, why don't I want them? And it comes down to this. He wants people who can get on base. He doesn't care how pretty they are. He wants people who know how to connect, because his feeling is if they know how to connect, they're going to be able to get to second base, third base, and home. When it comes down to getting clients, that's what you want to do. You want to connect, and you want to connect in the best way possible. Because if you can connect, you can get to second base, which is the get to know stage of a relationship. And from there, you can get to first base, which is the get to know stage. The get to know stage. And from first base, you can get to second base, which is the nurture stage, which is first base. I just screwed that up, so I apologize. If you hit the ball, you've connected. You get to first base. And from first base, you get to second base, which is the get to know stage. And from the second stage, you can get to third base, which is the nurture stage. And then from there, you can get to home. You get a client, the ask and offer stage. You see, there's stages of a relationship. The first stage is you want to connect. The second stage, you want to get to know the person. The third stage, you want to nurture that relationship. And the fourth stage, you want to get home and get that client. Best ways to do that connection. Stephen, if you could click the next slide, that would be great. And go ahead and click it again, please. And there are a number of ways you can connect. You can connect by speaking, writing, podcast, videos. It's a question I get asked, and the response I receive many times when I ask people, how are they connecting? You can do webinars such as this. You can use social media. You can network, referrals, and targeted outreach. They're all good ways to connect. But out of all of these, there are some better ways. There's some that are better than others, in other words. And I'm going to pause here for a second and ask you to put in the chat, which ways do you connect? If anybody wants to share, please put it in the chat. I'm going to just pause here a second. How do you go about connecting with people? What is your top way to do it? Okay. We will just simply move on. Speaking, great. Peer-reviewed, social media, writing, speaking, Chamber of Commerce, great. Networking. LinkedIn newsletter, I see. Great. We'll address all of these as we talk here. Okay. Stephen, next slide, please. And let's continue. There we go. Here are the best ways to connect. There's 3 great ways: networking, referrals, and targeted outreach. And you see a key word I have there, strategic. And I want you to think about strategically connecting. That's exactly what Billy Beane did as he was looking for people to put on the Oakland A's team. He was strategically thinking about who he was going to bring onto the team, who were the best people who could strategically connect with that ball and get to first base. And that's what I want you to think about. There's nothing wrong with writing, speaking, podcasts, videos, websites, webinars, social media, nothing wrong whatsoever. But they're passive ways to connect with people. Passive. People need to find you. Networking, referrals, and targeted outreach, strategic networking, strategic referrals, and strategic targeted outreach are active ways to reach out. What's the difference? Active. You take the lead. You're the one that's reaching out to connect. Oh, could you flip that back a second,
Yes,
please?
yes.
Okay. You're the one that's reaching out to connect. Active. You're taking the lead. Passive. People need to find you. I'll use this webinar as an example. I didn't reach out to any of you. I didn't connect with any of you. You had to find me. Now, SCORE reached out and said, here's a webinar we're presenting, but I didn't take the lead. I didn't reach out to you. It takes longer for people to find you and for you to connect. And even when they reach out and find you, you still need to use some of the techniques and tactics that are associated with strategic networking, strategic referrals, and strategic targeted outreach. You take the lead, and the key is strategic. Strategic networking means you hang out where they hang out, like the chamber, but where they can find you. Strategic referrals. Yes, people will provide referrals to you, but strategic referrals means you find some key people and you build a relationship with the people for strategic referrals. Strategic targeted outreach, and we're going to talk more about that in a second, is where you figure out who you want to connect with and go forward from there and strategically reach out to them. I actually used this technique when I was writing a book, and I've actually used that technique as I'm working on another book. So you can use the techniques I'm talking about here throughout your business. And I will be discussing each of them: strategic networking, strategic referrals, and strategic targeted outreach, with the help of a case study, a real life case study of a consultant who works with small businesses. Stephen, flip it. At this point, let me see, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, please. We don't have any in the Q&A right now. If you have some, please post them there and we'll get back to you as we go on.
And please ask questions. I do want you to ask questions.
Sure helps, yeah.
Okay. I'm grabbing a little water here. Stephen, go ahead. I mentioned I will discuss strategic targeted outreach, referrals, as well as networking with the help of a case study. And the case study is a small business consultant. This is a person who went out and decided that they wanted to be their own boss. And they wanted to work with small businesses. And they were talking about small businesses. Let me put this in a framework of under 50 employees. So we're not talking the micro small, but under 50 employees. And this case study that I'm presenting here is based on one consultant, but is really based on three, all of whom work with small businesses. The small business consultant had a focus, knew who their ideal client was, and a point of view. Stephen, if you could click this a second, that'd be great. This small business consultant decided that their focus, the one thing for which they wanted to be known, dealt with operational efficiency. I know somebody put in the chat that they're working with strategic planning and development and implementation. This person decided that, hey, they already have their plan. I'm going to help them become operationally efficient. Are they doing the right things? Are they doing the right things when it comes to hiring people and project management and getting the employees out there working with the clients? Because their ideal client, this consultant, wanted to work with CEOs and owners of trade businesses, HVAC, plumbing. That was their ideal client. And they decided that they were going to hang out, find their ideal client by associating themselves with trade associations and complementary businesses. Accountants, complementary businesses, accountants who might become strategic referral partners. So they started there. And when it came to how, which is your point of view, the point of view is your differentiator. It helps you stand out. They created their own operational efficiency methodology, and they came up with that based on industry practices. And here's the thing, that's great. They did the basics. They had in place their business core, but getting your business core in place, which kind of is your foundation from you moving forward, is fabulous. But you need to do something else. Stephen, could you click? Yeah. They needed to make sure first that they had everything in place to show that they were credible. Showing you're credible, showing you're real, showing you're genuine. And this, believe it or not, this is easy to do. And so many consultants overlook this, and so important to help get known. The second stage of relationship building. The small business consultant went and came up with a great brand message. And they used storytelling to help with their brand message. They had their point of view, which I just mentioned. They had testimonials, stories, case studies, and they had third-party documents to help them explain how they help their clients. One more click on this page, Stephen. If you're interested in what I consider the 10 essentials that a consultant should have to help get known, all of them, none of them cost any money to do. They do take some time to do. There is a document, and you can get them on the free resources page of the website. But at the end of this, I know there's a link so that you can help yourself to it. It's a good checklist. Is really what it comes down to. It's actually about 12 pages, but it's a good checklist to help you come up with the essentials that any consultant should have to help get known, the stage 2 of a relationship. Okay, I gave you some background on the small business consultant. Now let's start diving down into what this consultant did. Stephen. They sat back and they said, I have to deal with the first 3 stages of a relationship. First base, I got to connect. I got to connect. I don't care how many people I get as clients right now, though I want clients. I have to be able to connect. And the better I can connect, the better it's going to be, or the easier it is going to be for me to get known and nurture that relationship, moving them into becoming a client. What am I going to do, Stephen? They put writing, speaking, podcasts, social media, all on the back burner. They said, I'm going to deal with the basics. I'm going to be active as how I reach out. I'm going to deal first with targeted outreach, then networking, and then referrals. And that's the order they put their approach in. They thought about when it came to their approach for connecting with people. Stephen, please. They took a hard look at their business core, their why, their what, their who, their how. Their why, the what, focus. Who, ideal client. How, their point of view. and started thinking about strategically, who do they know that might be interested in working with them? Who might be a targeted client for them? Stephen, please. Click it again. And they went through their list. They pulled their list of people they knew. You might have been told, go to LinkedIn and download all your contacts. Oh, go back, Stephen, I'm sorry. Go to LinkedIn, go through all your contacts and start sorting them out. Start sorting them out. Who might be a potential client? Another way to think about this is if you have 100 people, all of whom are your ideal client, 1 to 3% of them are ready to do something right now. Another 34% will never do something. The people in the middle, well, maybe someday they will do something. So you want to sort those people. You want to get those high potentials in that A category. They're the people you're going to use a targeted outreach approach for. Other people you're going to put in the B category. B category, these are people that know they need help, but they're just not ready right now. The C category are people who need help but don't know they need help. Think of this like the sorting hat. You're putting them in the sorting hat, but also think of this as a pyramid. You're going to have less people up top in that A category, more people down in the C category. And some of the people that you go through and you look at that are on in your contacts list, you're just going to throw out. They're in the D category. They will never become a client. They don't fit your ideal client criteria. Nothing. You're going to throw them out. Stephen, please. You're going to compare. Just click a couple times here, Stephen. I'm just going to go through. Okay, that's fine. You compare that list of people, the people that you think might fit your ideal client criteria, might be A, B, and C contacts, and you compare them to your ideal client criteria. And your ideal client criteria are the behaviors, the mannerisms, as well as the characteristics, industry, size. Mannerisms, you want to think about, do you want people that are socially responsible? What do they pay on time? And the small business consultant took that list and came up with 15 potential clients and 5 referral influential partners. Now, keep in mind, she's going to focus first on, and this was a woman, she's going to focus first on the targeted outreach approach. She has 15 people that she's going to look at for targeted outreach, 5 people for strategic referrals. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. And as she thinks about how she's going to go about connecting, she has 2 HVAC and plumbing trade association studies. She's going to use them to help her connect with people. Stephen, click, please. She has really taken the time to determine the best way to connect. Stephen? Again, she's sitting down and saying, I want to connect, get to know, nurture, because once I get there, trust will be in place. Stephen, click. I'm going to ask you to click a couple times. Just go ahead and click. One more. Targeted outreach. This consultant is saying, I'm using a targeted outreach approach. She sits down and she does research on those 15 people that she put in that A category. She's skipping the B's and C's for right now because they're not targeted outreach people right now. They're not ready to buy. And she offers to sit down and talk to them and offer them something of value. Something of value, that one of those studies, she wants to talk to them about the studies, and she provides an agenda. When they say yes, she provides an agenda. She's connecting with them. She's not trying to sell them anything. She's trying to get to know them. She writes a personalized message. The personalized message starts out, and the first paragraph is all about them. That's where she starts. The second paragraph, 2 to 3 sentences about who she is. The third paragraph, would you be willing to meet? I have this study. Here are some of my notes about the study. But that letter is personalized to that individual. Person says yes, that's great. They get together, they meet, they talk, they share insights, they ask. The consultant listens more than speaks, and asks questions. They position themselves for a follow-up meeting. They work on building credibility, and they develop a plan specific for that potential client, for that person. They build credibility. Connect, get to know, nurture. I'll be honest, I'm going through this quickly at a high level, but hopefully you get the concept and get a feel as to what I'm talking about by target. You are taking the initiative. Everything you do is about them, not about you, and you build trust. You're connecting. If you can connect, believe it or not, you're going to get to second. The chances of getting to second base are pretty good. I've used this technique my entire career and built some fabulous relationships using this technique. Stephen, if you could click. If you want to know how to write or create an effective personalized message, I put a video out on the YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago that walks you through creating one. Help yourself to it. Stephen, as this consultant, this woman, who works with small businesses in the HVAC area, basically, she constantly thought about how she was providing value, how she could help them. I shouldn't say she never once thought about would they hire her or not, because that's what she would like to do, build trust to see if they're interested in working with her. But she constantly provided them value. She was responsive, proactive, and showed that she would be easy to work with. She worked on building a win-win relationship. Now, I'm telling you this story. I'm telling you about a small business consultant, not about me, somebody that I do work with. Let me be really honest. She has used this approach on her last 3 clients. She built relationships with them. One became a client quickly. Another took 8 months. So when people ask me, how long does it take? It's going to vary. I have another person who used this, and within 2 months, they became a client. So I want to do a little level setting there because people ask, how long does it take? It varies. Next slide, Stephen, please. And go ahead, click again. I will pause here to see if anybody has any questions.
We did have one. Anne asked a question. I don't know if you can see it, but she says, do these approaches and the order in which you use them vary by type of business, or are they the same across all consulting?
And great question. There is no one order. The order is the order that is right for you. Here's the thing. If you're not comfortable, you're not going to do the work. So you want to be comfortable. For some people, they feel strategic networking is the best way for them to start. For other people, they start with targeted outreach. Others start with strategic referrals. So it comes down to what makes sense for you based on your business, who you know, and where are you comfortable? Some people don't feel comfortable doing the targeted outreach approach first. And here's the thing, all 3 can work together. For example, you could use the targeted outreach and strategic referral together. So it's not black and white. Before a presentation, I have to try to keep it a little black and white. And did I answer your question? I know you can't respond, but hopefully I answered your question. Okay, thank you. If there are no more questions, we'll move on. Let's talk about strategic networking. As I responded to Ann's question, I mentioned that it doesn't matter what you order. Some people prefer using strategic networking first. Consultant that I'm using as an example didn't start there first. She started with the targeted outreach. But from a strategic networking perspective, she uses strategic networking as a way to find people to reach out to. And she's very specific as to where she networks. She networks with associations and complementary businesses. The complementary businesses tend to be her strategic referral partners. When it comes to strategic networking, she networks with associations. 2 associations, that is it. That's all she has time to do, and all she has time, when I say do, all she has time to really do right, to spend the time that's necessary. There are 10 channels or 10 categories where you can find your ideal client, where they might hang out. You don't want to try to reach out to all 10 or use all 10 channels or all 10 categories. It's way too many, way too many. You want to pick one of those channels and then even narrow it down some more. This consultant, 2 associations, that's it. But you want to decide where you want to spend the time and where your ideal client can find you, because it is so much better if your ideal client can find you. It makes it easier for you. So this consultant took the time to figure out which 2, and the 2 she's using right now are not the 2 that she started with. One is, the other isn't, because she found one wasn't a good fit. So she moved on. And what has happened is, as she's gotten involved, she sits on a committee. She doesn't chair a committee. She sits on a committee. But as she's gotten involved by attending events, people have come up to her and have gotten to know her. If you don't know where to find your ideal client, there is a downloadable document. It's a free resource. Help yourself to it. There'll be a link at the end as well. There's an exercise in that document to help you do it yourself. But she follows the same kind of concepts. Stephen, next page, please. Oh, go on. We'll come back. Okay. She spends time researching where your ideal client hangs out, what associations, what organizations, online blogs, trade magazines, upstream, downstream people, LinkedIn, and she compares everything to her ideal client criteria. I mentioned the 2 associations she's involved with were not the 2 she started with. One is, the other isn't. It's because the more she got to know the organization, she realized her ideal client really didn't hang out there. And the people who did hang out there, even though they met her characteristics, did not meet the behaviors that she felt were important. Okay. Stephen, if you click a second, please. I don't think there's anything else on this slide. Oh. 1 trade organization, 1 organization with complementary businesses and referral partners. You can come up with 1 organization with complementary business or referral partners. but she's stuck with 2 trade organizations. Things have changed a little bit with this person since I put the slide together. Oh, could you go back a second? Let's pause here because I think there are a couple questions, and let's answer the questions before I move on.
Yes, there are. And so Sharon asked, what is considered the best response time to your clients? Is it 24, 48 hours?
Okay. Best response time, it depends on what you've put in place with your client. I'm not trying to be difficult. It depends on what your consulting services are, what you have talked to your client about as to what is the best response time for them. I've had clients that it could be 2-3 days before I get back to based on what they're asking, and others that I try to make sure that they get responses within 24 hours. That's tends to be a delivery, not tends, it is a delivery question. So Sharon, I hope I answered your question. It really depends. It's not black and white.
Then we had another question. What is an example of a channel or a category to hang out in?
Okay. One of the channels could be associations and organizations. Another of the channels could be where they write. Another channel could be social media. This small business consultant does not hang out on social media because her ideal client doesn't hang out there. This is one of the challenges I find with people who approach me and say, I'm hanging out on LinkedIn. And I had this conversation last week with somebody who's been hanging out on LinkedIn for almost 2 years and has not gotten any clients off by hanging out on LinkedIn. And my comment to him was, does your ideal client hang out there? And he came back with, well, I was told that I should hang out on LinkedIn. I said, I don't care where you hang out when it comes to social media. If your ideal client doesn't hang out there, don't hang out there. So like I said, associations and organizations are another. Online blogs are another. People that write, you will find them in trade magazines and business journals. Conferences are another place. I have one client that I've worked with for several years now. He goes to 3 conferences a year. He's a PhD, he's an engineer, and he gets all his clients by attending 3 conferences. He speaks at those conferences now, but that's where he finds his ideal client. That is one of the channels. So anonymous attendee who asked, hopefully that answered your question. But if you go download that document, the 10 channels are included in there.
Thank you. Dennis also has a question. Is complementary business, is that referring to providing free services in return for referrals for other clients?
No. Complementary businesses is a channel. No, you don't want to give free services. No free services. Complementary businesses are the accountants, the lawyers, people that you want to build a strategic referral partnership with and help one another. But when don't give free services. And when people say you're starting out, you should give free services, don't. I made that mistake. And there was no reason why I did it. I was told to do that, but don't. There are some things you can do if you feel that you need to, but you already have the experience and expertise.
Is it correct, Laura, that when you say complementary business, it's a business that is supporting your ideal client in some way that is probably not in that industry, like you said, a service like legal or accounting or some other?
Yes, they're complementary businesses, but they're serving the same ideal client to some extent.
Thank you. Okay, that's it.
Okay, let's move on. Again, even with strategic networking, you want to come back to this concept. You want to determine the best way to connect, get to know, and nurture. If you're strategically networking and you've met the person, you want to follow up afterwards. Say you met them at a networking event. Again, you want to go back to a personalized email or letter. You can offer something of value again. In this case, the small business consultant uses the same studies that she uses with the targeted outreach where she doesn't know the person. She uses the same thing, sets up an agenda, spends time getting to know, and spends time building credibility. That is, if she decides that this person is somebody that's in the A category. This small business consultant only works with people or only connects with people and spends time connecting with people that she feels are in that A category who might be interested in hiring her. Next slide, please. Referrals. Referrals. I had a conversation the other day with a person who is really struggling because they're building their business and trying to build their business on referrals and only referrals. Do you have strategic referral partners? And she said, no. And my comment was, you want to take the time to come up with a policy for your referrals. And you want to think about coming up with strategic referral partners. And I always recommend no more than 5 strategic referral partners. In this case study, that small business consultant has 5. She has 5. And that's what she relies on. She does have a policy for giving referrals as to who she will give referrals with. She has a policy for strategic referral partners as well. So we're talking really, in this case, 2 kinds of referral strategies here. For her strategic referral partners, she has a document that she's put together, she's written out, that says, here is a good client for me. Here's who's not a good client for me. If you want to introduce me to somebody that you think is a good client for me, let's talk. And I will write up the introduction for you. Once a quarter, she gets together with every one of her strategic referral partners to talk. You see, as much as she's a strategic referral, the strategic referral partners, it's a 2-way relationship. She also helps them and refers people to them. There's no paying going on here. This is not, if you give me, refer somebody to me, I'm going to pay you 10%. There's no paying going on. This is a partnership. But like so many, other people want to refer people to you. And I recommend every consultant has a policy when it comes to referrals as to what is a good referral. Anytime somebody comes to me and wants to refer somebody, my policy is, and I don't care if they're a strategic partner or not, same thing with a small business consultant, they take the initiative to write the introduction. My personal policy, as well as this small business consultant's policy, is they don't give cold referrals. Cold referrals is, here's the name of a person, just go contact them. They might give a warm referral where they do the intro, but for the most part, I refer on hot referrals, which means I personally make the introduction and will do a 3-way conference call or Zoom call these days. Strategic referrals is having a small number of people that you know you can rely on, and you can refer people to them, and they can refer people to you. You write out something that says, here's a good client, who's not a good client. You meet with them on a regular basis, and you build a relationship with them, helping one another. Again, the key here is strategic, but you don't stop there. You also have a policy that you use for giving referrals and obtaining referrals from everybody else. Next slide, please.
So you know we got about 8 minutes left, Laura.
Yep. Next slide, please.
There.
Here's the biggest mistake consultants make. Common mistake. I just talked about strategic outreach, networking, and referrals. But to connect, you got to do it daily. Click again, please, Stephen. You got to do it daily, or at least weekly. I know some people that just take Fridays and that's all they do on Fridays. But you need to come up with a plan, and you need to work with it. You need to connect on an ongoing basis. This is not something that you can do and then stop. Put together a spreadsheet. This is how you're going to go forward, and this is what you're going to do on a daily or weekly basis. I have a spreadsheet. I don't care about my daily, but I do care about where do I end where am I at the end of the week, and definitely at the end of the month. Next slide, please. Consulting is a relationship business. You're not selling a cup of coffee. You're working on building relationships with people. You're showing you're credible, you're reliable, and trustworthy. When you're trying to get clients, you need to connect, get known, and nurture a relationship so that you build trust. The best way to do it is by taking an active approach to getting clients and being strategic as to how you think about how you reach out and connect, get to know, and nurture that relationship. And the best ways to do it are with 3 techniques, 3 approaches: targeted outreach, strategic referrals, and strategic networking. Next slide, please. At this point, I will see if there are any questions, any more questions, or we can go to the next slide.
There are some more questions. We had one is, what if I'm not a member of the association? I think thinking about trade associations, etc. What if I'm not a member?
Okay, and I see there a next question after that. Let me ask the next one. Are chambers of commerce included on your list? Chambers of commerce are associations and organizations, and that is one of the channels. So yes, they're on the list. What if you're not a member of the association? Some associations will allow you to attend and be active with the association, and others won't. So it's going to be dependent on the association as to how you can interact with that association.
Okay. I think that's it.
Okay, next slide. This is for you to think about. What are you going to do today to help you get clients? And you do not have to answer. It's something for you to walk away and think about. Next slide. But here's the key. I'm a big Peter Pan person. The moment you doubt whether you can fly, you cease forever to be able to do so. This can be scary. It can be scary trying to connect with people. What's the worst thing that can happen? Somebody says no. Don't not try. Next slide. Help yourself to the free documents. I mentioned them. Help yourself to the videos. These are links. My understanding, these will be available. They'll be in this video, so help yourself.
That's correct.
Continue to next, because then I think we end up.
We've
Next
got
slide.
some more questions if you'd like to take those.
Sure, I'll take them.
Holly asked, if you have a full plate of clients, how much time should you be nurturing new relationships, clients for the future?
Um, if you're working 40 hours a week with clients, you probably are spending too much time, not probably, you're spending too much time working with clients. You need to build into your schedule time to for your admin and for your marketing. And this is part of marketing. So you need to build that into your schedule.
Yeah.
So if you have a full plate of clients and that full plate is 40 hours of the week, you might want to think about what you mean by a full plate of clients.
That's wonderful advice, because when I was consulting, I was busy, and then as I finished up a project, there was a big lag between that and the next project, and when I got money coming in again. So
Yeah, you
good
don't want that
advice.
scenario, Stephen. You want to keep that flowing.
Absolutely. And Anne asked, Laura, any suggestions for how to develop and leverage association involvement? Do you need to develop credibility with them too? How do you do that? What if others there are already providing your service?
All good questions. And how do you develop and leverage association involvement? My recommendation to people is before you get involved in association, because most associations, as soon as they get a new person, want you to get involved, I recommend you attend some events and see if your ideal client really does hang out there. And they meet your ideal client criteria, both the characteristics as well as the behaviors. So you get involved slowly by attending events, and then decide, if you do want to become more active, decide where is the best place for you to use your skills and get to know the people you want to. You know, people have come to me and said, can you be on this committee? I'm like, no, that's not a good fit for me. Well, we could use your help. No, that's not a good fit. Figure out what makes sense for you. And yes, you do need to develop credibility with them, but there's so many easy ways to develop that credibility. I have one client who writes an article for them. He's not on any committees. He writes an article for them every quarter. What do you do if others already provide your service? Yep, there will be people who already provide your service. I won't dispute that. I won't lie and tell you that, nope, they don't. What I will tell you is this. If you have a solid point of view, your point of view is your differentiator. It is how you stand out and show you are different. You're not the same as anybody else who's providing a similar service to you. And you see the word I use, similar. So just a different way to think about it. If you're not sure what I mean by point of view, I put a video out on the YouTube channel earlier, last month, I think it was, explain what a point of view is and providing a short exercise to help you think about creating one. So hopefully that'll help you a little bit, Anne.
Yeah. You touched on this. How much time on average allotted for marketing campaign and administrative work?
I suggest out of 5 days a week, a day to 2. It's usually about a day and a half most people are spending.
Thank you. Sharon asks, could you also find in the chamber your complementary or strategic business referral partners?
Yes, you can. This is not black and white. The channels overlap. I wish I could say they're black and white, but no, yes, you could find them in the chamber.
Great. That's it.
Okay.
And so you have one more slide.
And one slide is just links. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, help yourself to the YouTube channel and articles. That's it. And if you need to reach out, there's my email address.
My last 2 slides, I want you to know that if we can help you as a mentor, we have some just outstanding people that can help. And Laura's an example of the kind of expertise people can bring and can help you. And if you're direct mentor, or sometimes we do it in teams, we have a lot of resources that we can help you with. And also, we're located office, you're certainly free to go to, but you can contact us through email or online. And with that, I want to thank you so much, Laura. I found that very helpful. I hope everybody else did too.